Hi, good afternoon. It's the second last day of the Chennai Photo Biennale Edition 4. My name is Shuchi. I'm one of the founders of the Chennai Photo Biennale Foundation. Really good to see a lot of friends in the audience as well as, of course, some new faces. I don't know how many of you have already gone and checked out the exhibitions. Today and tomorrow are the last days to catch all the shows. The shows have been on since 20th December, and the venues that you can check out are Egmore Museum, Lalit Kala Academy, VR Chennai, and Gallery Veda and Madras Literary Society. These are the venues where some beautiful shows are there, and without much further delay, I'm going to introduce our two speakers today. Also very dear friends, thank you for being here. The conversation today is on their engagement with curatorial practice as an act of translation. Tanvi Mishra works with images as a photo editor, curator, writer, writer and educator. Among her interests are rights and representation in image making, research strategies in visual culture, as well as the notion of truth or fiction in photography, particularly in the current political landscape. She has curated multiple exhibitions, including the Delhi Photo Festival, Photo Kathmandu, Breda Photo Biennale, and most recently her show Moving Definitions, an invitation to review at Rencontre des Arts in France. Welcome, Tanvi. Can we have a round of applause? Thank you. And dear friend Jaisingh Nageswaran is a self-taught lens-based artist and curator from Vadipatti, Madurai. His practice is deeply rooted in acknowledging the land and language he comes from. Through documenting his own family history, he represents and talks about the broader social implications involved. Beginning his own project, The Lodge, at the KG Plus Select at the Kyotography Festival in Japan, marked the start of his curatorial journey. He further co-curated 2 editions of Varnam Art Festival in Chennai and has also participated in the Koj Curatorial Intensive South Asia Fellowship. He was awarded the Musée de Coy Bromley Jacques Chirac Photography Award in France. Pardon me if I didn't say that right, but I will now welcome Jay and Tanvi to start this beautiful evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Shuchi. Good evening. Vanakkam ellathukkum. Sandosham இந்த மதிய நேரத்தில். Good to see all of my friends and new of yeah.
Thanks everyone for coming. Somebody here remembered that we were here about 6 years ago giving a talk around PICS, which is another curatorial project. And so very glad to be back. Very glad to be here with Jay, who is a colleague, peer, friend, and we exchange ideas quite often. So it's quite nice to be given the opportunity to actually converse in public and to be able to bring these ideas into some kind of a slightly more formal space. But we wanted to structure this as a conversation between each other and how our practices may have intersecting concerns or interests. We have many artists that we have actually worked with in exhibitions and outside that are common to both of us. So where do our practices kind of connect and where do they diverge? I wanted to give a very slight intro to the title, which is called In Translation. And the reason for that is, and I'll read a little bit because they're quotes from someone else. It's something that really speaks to me through the curatorial process, because I feel that the dynamic that exists between a translator and an author whose works are handed over in the gentle care and custodianship of another reminds me of this delicate dynamic between the artists and curators. Sometimes we're a conduit of their ideas and others were there to just trigger a conversation. The act of carrying from one language to another becomes central to the curatorial process. So before we begin to speak about images, I thought that I would segue right in the beginning across to the literary form. I want to read aloud to you some notes of Charlotte Collins. She's a British translator of contemporary literature and drama from German. And in this reading, I'd like for all of us to perhaps imagine the possibility of this dialogue that's either happening externally with the author or internally with the self, to perhaps be taking place within our image making world. And not, she's speaking about the literary world, but perhaps we can translate that to our image making world and visual art. So open quote, she says, "My aim is to always cleave as closely as possible to the author's original intention, or rather what I believe it to be. Accuracy is of course essential in terms of translating content, but any reading is necessarily subjective. Literary translators don't just translate the meaning of a text, we translate the feel of it, which is inevitably filtered through our individual sensibilities. Every choice we make as we rewrite the text in English, trying to recreate what we see and hear and smell and taste and touch in our imagination as we read the original, subtly shifts the emphasis." Then she writes another note where she says, "When I'm translating, rhythm is what tells me whether or not a sentence is right. It's like listening to a piece of music. I may find myself sitting with my eyes closed, allowing it to echo in my mind, listening out for a false note or a slight stumble, sometimes even bizarrely passing its invisible weight between my hands." Another note of hers says, "If an ambiguous word or phrase seems particularly important, I like to be able to confirm with the author if I weighed it correctly. Perhaps I may feel that the English needs to pull a little further away from the German in order to create the right mood. I would be mortified if the author felt I had betrayed their text. So if they're interested in discussing the translation, I'll explain the implications of some of my choices, and we will make the decision together. Sometimes they're too busy, or they say they don't need to get involved and are happy to leave these choices to me. But I do like to make sure. It's not that I can't decide, and it's seldom the case that I don't understand something. But if I had spent hours, days, years writing and perfecting the original text, I'd want to know that this is as near as the word damn it was what my readers were actually getting." And then the last one that she says is, "By the time I translated a few thousand words, I had a better sense of what was going on, a feel of the meat for the text, a sharper awareness of its problems and eccentricities. I returned to Anthea's draft." Here she's referring to another translator who's called the Grand Dame of German English translation, and that translator has also translated the same author's work. So she says, "I returned to Anthea's draft. This time it was different. I had questions for her, and she answered them." And for me, this is really quite similar to approaching another curator who's curated the same artist's work. So she says to Anthea, she says, "Look, you see, it's okay to shake this up a bit. You can let it be looser. Have you thought of turning this around? That's better, isn't it? Yes, it's fine. You can break the sentence there without spoiling the flow. This one needs streamlining. But here it should stay as it is. It's supposed to sound a little off kilter." Close quote. So this dialogue that Collins is having in the piece really resonated with me, in the dialogue I often have while curating the work of artists or editing with them, or sometimes even writing on image-based works. They have questions around intention, of accuracy, of fidelity to their work. And in building an experience together with artists, what is the priority for that iteration that we create together? What is the priority for that to have a unique imprint? And how far should we pull from earlier iterations of the work or earlier forms of the work? So I just kind of wanted to give this kind of long prelude. But from here, maybe we go to Jay and start this kind of discussion. I just wanted to say that when we were talking yesterday, cinema came up quite a lot. I go to the literary form, I go often to film, I go often to music, which is sort of kind of my guiding force many times in curatorial practice, and I know
even
it is.
when you were editing also, I heard about a lot of students say that you play with films, and sometimes people play music also.
Yeah, and looking at image editing, I think what you're referring to is that when I sort of teach editing, I look back to...
Like a montages you show to some of your students, that's what I heard,
Yeah, and montage and film editing and how that might translate to image editing. And really these other forms giving us cues into this world of sort of image curation. But really the first question I had for you, that you're a really accomplished photographer, artist. Your practice, you've had an image making practice for how many, 15 years or maybe more?
I'm taking photographs since my brother first year college. So that 10 years is not countable, but after finishing my from 2000, that's my first SLR got it. So maybe more than 30 years, I think.
Yeah, more than many of us can say for our practices. And as somebody who's really developed
Like
this
in
craft.
the first beginning, I shot with Yashika. That's my family. That's like I think that time I was like a 12th standard. So that is like documenting my own family. But when I studied MSc, that's like 2000. Since then, I'm like Then I went to Narmada. Then the Narmada made me. I felt it. I want to become a photographer. So then that means like a professional life, maybe more than 20 years. Yeah.
So it takes quite a long time now to develop a practice of image making, of developing a vision of what you want. How do you communicate with images, being the author? And you've done this over a period of time with many different works that have many different languages in themselves. So what pulled you towards sort of moving into curatorial practice?
So I was thinking from the question, I believe that every artist itself a curator in their own way. So that's what I look at. Then for example, when I make Narmada, like I made like 30 rolls. From the 30 rolls I'm editing. Like at that time I made a film photography. We make like sheets, contact sheets. From the contact sheets I looked at what is the good image. Then I pull out some image like a maxi, some images I really want to see. This is like I make a big. Then I usually stick it in the wall. So that is kind of the curatorial practice started there. Then my very first show when I did it in Madurai YMCA, I think that was like a hall, and we created that's now they say a scenography, but that time we made it like with the cloth and with things we own way of local availability we made it. So that's how first exhibition, even when I did 2004 in Alliance Francis. So like then second time we made a framing. So that's how I started. Then being a photographer, I keep going to see different exhibitions in India and outside India. Especially I live quite some time. I live in Bombay. I'm big fan of NCPA. Then lot of galleries. I went to see exhibitions. So then I keep seeing how being a photographer and other artists they're showing the work. I always look at not only photograph. I keep going to see other artists, and I'm growing with Chandru sir. I'm growing with because of Chandru sir. I try to expose with different artists like sculptures and so many people. Quite some time I spent government art college. That's how I met Ranjit when he was studying in the college. He's a student. That time I was teaching photography in government arts college so then being always surrounded by artist and artist life. Then wherever I go, I stick to the film festivals. So that's how I've been. Then I think 6 years before in Chennai, I saw some exhibition. Then I saw that one work is not really the way I really wanted to see. I saw all the other shows was really perfectly displayed. Then I thought then I looked at the curator and then I tried to understand what do you mean. Why this particular photographer work is not the way they presented. Then that work is very close to me. Then I thought myself, if I got a chance, how I'll curate it. That's how I started this process. I entered to the practically entering to the curation. Yeah.
Did you ever curate that artist's practice?
Yeah, in CISA I did it.
You did.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit, you could tell the audience a little bit about the CISA experience and what that brought to you, because that was a more formal kind of training of the curatorial, right? And I'll pull up.
Yeah, the CISA is like a curatorial. What is the full name?
Curatorial intensive.
Fellowship is done by Coach Studios in Delhi. Actually, before that, Ranjit called me to do a Vanam art festival. That is not really last minute thing. Well, we collected prints and things, and we don't have full art. Palani also part of that curation. We were co-curating that time. So that time is really, we discussed that we need a curation note, we have to write artists, but we don't have a time. So, but that in a way it helps me to how collect the work and how put it in the, then in the, so it's very last minute thing. I could not do a lot of things. With this experience, then I saw, and I always do something, do the like looked at in the community, Dalit community work. We don't have any, since they started in Feel Like a Fish work. So then I really want to, I inspired from the Pics magazine. Like a couple of times I told you that we don't have any visual like archive. So then I wanted to, these are the things made me to apply CISA fellowship. CISA fellowship, really 6-month fellowship. 12 people was there, and I learned that what does mean curator note, how to write a curator note, and how to understand a lot of the space and thoughts, and how interlinked every work should be. So many, and they gave a lot of to read, and Sudha was a mentor, and he saw my Feel Like a Fish. Then he gave me that the curation should be like a fish point of view. So
Maybe you could tell them what is Feel Like a Fish.
yeah, Feel Like a Fish is like one of my family work, which I am making it's my family 4th generation of the struggle and resilience. So during the lockdown time, I was like, before lockdown, my lens was into outside like this. Then I was shooting Narmada. Then Narmada also part of that community work. Then long time I was working about the large series. Then I realized that I want to do talk about my family history, but something's not really easy. Something you have a lot of pain and accumulation of struggle. Then I always going away. But finally, during the lockdown, I had a courage to do that, my family history. So that's metaphorically, that is one day during the lockdown time. They say that be at home, don't go outside. So we have a fish tank at home. Then I realized that one day the house become a fish tank. I'm like a fish. So I felt I'm like a feeling. I'm also feeling like the fish. It's a very metaphorical meaning of how caste systems makes me to put in a box. So then that's the work, and that work is about everyday life of my family. The little bit of archive images, then contemporary image of how tea and caste is caste, and over the years of period how caste systems works here. Then couple of staged portrait of my family. So then Sudha wrote about the Feel Like a Fish, the text. Then fish looks at always very widely, and you say you feel like a fish, but the curation, if you're doing the curation in CISA, it's like a fish point of view. So that's why I made my work you also came to see the show. Then I used the whole space. I questioned the really art space. So then that allowed to me to do that. I occupy the whole space of how I have to have a conversation with each other, coherent. I think makes sense.
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe we can show some images from.
So that day I did a CISA fellowship. I took that rooting nails. Rooting nails is the kind of how in Tamil Nadu Dalit art literature. I took a Chandru sir. Chandru sir is the one very came out openly. He said the experience of Dalit experience he is speaking. So I took him. He's the one. From him, then how literature was there. Literatures like Bama writings, and then how movement came through Chandru sir. One of his students is Ranjit. I'm very much influenced by Chandru sir. So Chandru sir is the main theme for me, the show. From there, how other art practice happened. Even though I should do Charan's work there, even though I'm not a artist, but I took Charan's work also there, and how Charan is a contemporary artist, how he speak about contemporary issues of honor killing. So the whole space I used that. So then that Gote Sisa liked my work, coach Farah came me, Jaisingh, I really like your work, we want to work with you. So that's the lead to came to Chennai Photo Biennale.
So it's a nice sort of run up to how an artist practice sort of you actually say that the convergence with curatorial practice actually started while you were editing your own work and then into CISA, which was focusing on the Dalit narrative. And here you sort of shift that paradigm into what you call the Tamil New Wave. But something also similar that transfers is actually your impression of the visual medium. So when I saw the show the other day, the thing that really shines out is how you perceive photography, and I think it starts with Shankar's work, and also you also showed Oshin's work in Delhi, which was not really photographic work. So this sort of movement that you're having with how you look at the image, maybe that is also part of your curatorial process.
Yeah. Before that, I want to say that the chuchor of being coming from the Dalit experience, like for example, my lens is like a full tele lens. I'm shooting with my own family lens. I remove the lens. I put that wider lens is the Tamil landscape. So I was very clear when CISA I did it in Delhi. So okay, but when I come to curation something at the same time, I'm separately give the curatorial idea pitch. Pitch was given to Chennai Photo Biennale Tamil landscape. So then Delhi people came, they sanctioned money for routing the nails. Then I thought about it when I put in Chennai going to routing nails, it doesn't work for me. Then I put it in a way, Tamil landscape, then how, multiplicity came. How we are multiple, and this Warner Villudigal, that curatorial framework was multiplicity. How we, in India, what happening is one language, and one election, and one everything become one. So I'm against that. And in Tamil Nadu we are very multiple, and within the art practice we are like the show which I show it in Warner Villudigal, like especially coming to Shankar. Shankar is like I know in the beginning Shankar works not there, and I'm not really sure about Shankar work. Then we choose the mall. And when mall is a kind of a commodity place, people come and buy the art. People come for times, buy things and things. How I attract people to bring inside. So Shankar work was like a very very like installation kind of a different multiple than the music. So because of the mall, I choose Shankar work, and I start with Shankar work. Then Oshin was when Delhi, her work was so colorful, and after working with Oshin also said, Jay, I really like to work with you. Then I used to see her Instagram's page, and she always put that DJ, part-time DJ. Then my mind was then someone like colorful mind, how she make a music. Then every visual have a sound. Any picture has a sound. Every sound have a image. So then I want to play with the interconnection of. Then I reach out to Oshin. I have a show about Tamil Nadu, but I want to this is also I narrated to little bit of my curator note. It's a multiplicity, multipleness. Then she also came with multiple. This is called Palakural. Palakural means like a lot of voices. So she came up with a lot of voices in people in the street and music, different music, and she started with Periyar. So then that's how Oshin also came to. Even though she's not a visual art practitioner, when we have discussed with in Gote director, she said it's a lens based artist. What Oshin is doing that? Then no, but I know what I'm doing. What I want to my exhibition look like. So that's how I wanted to incorporate sound, Oshin work also here as a contemporary art practice, and how soundscape and how contemporary images working together in the one space.
I mean, just taking from what you were saying, like how the Delhi show was sort of structured around the idea of Dalit narratives, and I find it really quite poignant where you say that you expand the lens and then you go into the Tamil landscape. Do you feel because it's a question I asked to myself also, do you feel a kind of pressure or responsibility ever with curatorial work to comment on ideas of identity, for it to remain within, to address identity within curatorial work, and maybe for you I'll actually extend it also in artistic work?
This is like the curatorial practice also kind of extension of my what I do in my photography, and I'm very comfortable. I don't know whether this is my Tamil identity. I'm Tamilian, so since in my school teachers are very strongly they're very poet, and from them I ask question like when. This is not a context, but I want to say that's how I very more into thing. The Rabindranath Tagore, he got a Nobel Prize, no? So my Tamil teacher, he always talk about prize. Then I said, sir, no, only in Bengal he got a Nobel Prize. Why we always talk about Tamil? Nobody bought a Nobel Prize because he is the poet. He always think about Sangam poetry. That's how I rooted about poetry. So then I start reading, and then went to cinema. Then always talk about cinema. Also came to again one more Satyajit Ray. So then I start digging lot. Sorry, what is the question? I lost it.
That's fine. Do you feel a sort of a pressure / responsibility with identity?
Yeah. I think I'm correct route only. So then from the like Tamil, and then from my grandmother, school and struggle, and even my first work also Narmada also how like when I see Narmada, my grandmother's school was demolished. Even a lot of people here, local friend, that time also, you are Tamil, why you going to all the way to Narmada? Even whenever looked at Narmada, I see why across India, like marginalized Dalit and Adivasis and people always demolished in terms of economically, life or maybe. So this is the question connections. Since the beginning, I'm always connected to that where I'm coming from. So it's not like a forcefully I'm doing identity. But the question is, I don't know I'm not really comfortable to do any other. For example, a lot of curators I know, they do everything curate, whatever they say. For me, I can't do that. For me, I'm very comfortable with where I'm coming from, the life experience and the language where I know. So then it's not really forceful, and this is like my life. From the life I'm looking at, and also the answer. I ask the questions of myself. I try to find the answer for my own art practice also. The same way of the curation also. I'm looking at what Indian photography came to Chennai very early through British. And where is that? Like we don't have a Chandru, like we don't have a big photograph like Chandru. Chandru have a in painting, and he was inspired from a lot of people. But we don't have. There are the studio photographers there. There are a couple of photographers, but we don't master photographers. So that's the question came to that. Then that I looked at one way of what is contemporary scene happening in my place, where I'm coming from. So I tried to find answer. Then I find answer of this is a small slice. There are so many talented here, but because of the budget reason, space reason, then we put it like a just it's like a small yeah. Maybe I can ask you, so
sure.
keep the same way like when the way we were talking about. I known you I still remember in pics in Mumbai. First Pakistan work. I even Philip also there. Akshay Magajan. The book was going to release in Gote in Bombay. That's the first time I know, and I'm big fan of pics. Everybody I know, the photographers knows that pics magazine, and 6 months once or every year once.
It was called Pics Quarterly, and then I think we could never stick to the quarter, so it went half yearly, yearly.
Okay. Yeah. So being a photographer, I'm look for it like several times open call. I apply, I never got selected. That's but yeah, I have big admire. And then I was living to Mumbai. Then I heard about that today evening. That's how I know you. Since the day I know you are a writer and very associated with Delhi Photo Festival and bookmaking and being then what made you to switch over of you as a intellectual writing or editing, and from the space to curation, what you made to become a curation, please?
No, I think we have very similar beginnings. I also started out as a photographer. The difference was that you're a good photographer and I was a terrible one. And so I made a shift. But quite early on, actually, Pics was the first opportunity where Rahab, who was the founder, he just sort of invited me to say, would you like to work on this publication with us? And I realized that this image making world is an ecosystem, and there is somebody, who is the face of it, the photographer, but there is a chain of people that keeps this ecosystem moving. And I found my place somewhere else in the ecosystem. So I found that I got into photo editing, which I really enjoyed. I felt that, it's a real privilege actually to be able to converse with photographers and be able to sit with the archive. And I always ask some I hear who, I've worked with, to say, really bring out everything that you've shot. And it's kind of like being naked in front of someone else to show the best and the worst of what you've taken. And then it's a real privilege to be able to move through that. So I really enjoyed that process a lot. And I think it was through Caravan when I joined there as the photo editor, but then sort of expanded my role as creative director. I see all of these as curatorial exercises. I see curation as a practice of being able to contextualize work. So whether it's within a journalistic space, whether it's in a photographic ecosystem, whether it's in writing, I feel sometimes I'm not able to communicate certain thoughts and ideas through an exhibition, and it's a real, I have a difficult relationship with writing, but I enjoy doing that. So I feel all of these are curatorial exercises. It was that realization actually for me, which is maybe my next question, that there was a point at which I was shooting and I was editing people's work, and I felt a certain internal conflict where I felt I can't do both, and I have to make that decision for myself to be able to do justice to my practice. And that's where actually the difference between an artist / curator, in my case, the artist gets slashed out and then curator remains. And in your case, it's artist - curator. What are the differences that maybe you see in these two practices? But also, do you ever have a conflict when you're curating work of other artists and you're also a practitioner at the same time? Is there a conflict that you face?
Yeah, in the beginning I said in a way of every artist have a own way of curator. That's the extension. But here, yeah, when I do my own edit, I'm not really confident since like 4 years before. But now I'm really, since Magnum, I was in the fellowship. Since the fellowship, I have courage to look at my own work. I can edit. So this 4 years of editing gave me a confidence. And when I, for this curation, because of I have a liberty to edit the work. First, even this, so I was enjoying it. My own work edit, I have so much of traffic in my head. I always 1,000 questions. But when I looked at fresh people, but like here the 12 artists, I know them very well. I know them, what they work, from the beginning work to end work, what they're doing it. So when I was very clear about every artist, I want this body of work. So then I was editing wise, for me, give me a lot of freedom, and I as a person, I learned a lot how to edit work. So that experience. Now I get lot of experience of editing my own work. Now I'm editing my own book. So I'm re-editing, I'm re-looking at my own thing. So in a way, I take during this, I felt last 1 year I didn't do any my own art projects. But I felt very bad one day, like last 2-3 days I was, what is next, I'm not doing anything. Then I realized that looking at that notes I looked at, I learned a lot in a way in terms of sequencing and how to how to start with the work, and so many things gave me a thing with the film right now I'm working on it. So that's really helped me. I have a lot of stuck. So I find a lot of answer because of this curation with the 12 artist work and 12 different artist work and 12 mind. I have a lot of conversation with them. So these are the inputs for me to put my own art practice to enrichment. That's what I got like a getaway. What is called getaway or what's that? That's the all 12 artists gave me. So that way I'm benefited, even though my art practice was stopped. But in a way, different way of I didn't touch my own work, but other work really gave me a lot. And also the feedback, what I be in the place. And today also Philip told me that, Jaya, I never seen a lot of new photography. I discovered that. Same way, I'm also discovered a lot of photography in a way. So it's in a way like a give and take kind of feeling, and yeah. I'm more confident actually now. Editing my own work, now I go sit before I always wait for some validation, look for people. Now now I think, okay, I'm first picture is short picture. I'm very confident now. That confident I got own work, yeah, because of this curation like that. Yeah.
Sounds like a very therapeutic process. Actually, going from that, maybe I had a question on the side which I didn't send you because I wanted to ask. Do you think artists are difficult?
Yes, yes, and 12 artists, next, very difficult, but that's the job. Actually, when I looked at, I also worked with, but it's a part of the thing, and but thing is, that's the thing, challenge. And here I decided, I talk about multiplicity, I talk about things, then usually I work with the other thing, they never share the curator note, but here I thought about, I wrote a curator note, I shared with my all artists, 12 artists, and give the feedback, I wrote to them, then everything I shared with them. And then this time I spoke to all the artists, so we came the midway. Some artists doesn't have ideas, I took the power of them, then I thought, this is the way I'm going to show that. I got artists, then otherwise they come and see the show, I didn't imagine this way, so I don't want to feel this is my first show. And but I enjoyed it, because every artist, they looked at only their work, but every time I say, you are not only the show, other 11 people are there, 12 people are there, so I have to tell them, next work is coming this work, so I'm to, but that also fun to work with, yeah. Next time I won't do 12 people, I maybe
No.
5, 6. To handle is very difficult. Yeah.
I had a bunch of questions. Yeah, you referred to this quote the other day by Kiarostami, where you said that photography is the mother of cinema. And I wanted maybe you could tell the audience a bit about how it's influenced your curatorial practice, but also maybe your artistic practice.
Before photography, I did a wedding video actually. I took that Panasonic 3000, and maybe I shot 100 weddings in Madurai, because nobody taught me photography. I've just finished my course. I don't know what to do. So when I shot with film, then I have to, even the wedding, I have to show that what is the master shot. Then luckily, the place I grown up with, Madurai Tamil Nadu Theological Seminary, they have a cultural center. They have a lot of film festival happens. That's how I see Fellini film, 8.5. I didn't know who's Fellini. Then 400 Blows, I saw that. Then all the French New Wave cinema I saw there. Then next cut, I saw the Iranian films, and then cut to the Battle of Potemkin King. So lot of that film saw. Then that made me to, and I have a good teacher, Rajan. Rajan is from, he was Yadartha Rajan. He has a film club. He come with the 8M projector and he screened the film. So I had a very good teacher, very philosopher. He talks about, that's why maybe I picked up Chandru and then later Chandru later, but first was Rajan. He was always talks about why the empty without leaf, and what's the meaning of showing that without leaf, and so many metaphorical, all the metaphor he only talked about. That time I didn't understand. So I learned photography. When I went to Narmada also, I didn't know anything photography, honestly. I didn't, but the images, the film I saw, those 3 years of my college, when I went to Narmada with very, very plain mind, I didn't think about, I become a photographer. How I see, when I went to there, I see literally Vadipatti, like Mullai Periyar, is here Narmada, that's it. Mullai Periyar is very small, Narmada is so big. And the language is very different. Then the cows and like Ken and everything, we have a agriculture family, we have a lot of, I grow with animal. Only the landscape and language changed. So very closer to see what I saw in my childhood and my adulthood. So I just replicated Narmada. So also cinema was so, formative. And then I went to Film Institute, Pune. I wrote a thing, I could not get selected. Then learned cinema from watching festivals and thing. Then I worked with Ravi K. Chandran, assistant cameraman. Then always I have to see the cinema. Then I take, so that's then when here, As I said, the curation also my extension of art practice. I'm also making cinema. I'm also making like a small, I do little experiment films, kuti, like 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and which I never shown to anybody. But I keep doing something. So then I want to do that here, lens-based artist. Then lens-based artist, like that definitions is very different, no? It's not photography. It's including a lot of things. Then Arun Karthik work was 10 days before I decided. I have to give the list to CBP. They were asking me, send me the artist. Wait, I'll send. I didn't know whether I should remove or not. Some people are not really sure, but I put it. Then one night, wake up at 3 o'clock, I thought, what is something missing. Then I know Arun very well. I reach him out. So then I reach out, can you have any film he sent to me? So then the quote helped me. Even though Sadi's work is a montage, when I reached Sadi's work, I wanted to him, he making a sunlight. His was a photograph. I make sure that I don't want to show the image photograph. Then I asked him to shoot video. He made up with the concept of, then we, like a montages. Then I gave a brief of him, like a montage, and like it can be anything. No need to be like that. Then when I want to do that display, I made it how two eyes are seeing the things. How we always see two eyes. So I put a display like a 2 eyes of square format. So these are my own art practice. I explained to my artist, say they did it in the own way. Then I took it from their material. I displayed it in my own way. I mean, I executed in my own way. So cinema also a very important role of my own practice. I took it from there. I put it in the curation also because it's the extension of what I do in my life. That also the curation. Yeah. So long answer. Sorry.
Oh, answer's good. I maybe have one question that I don't have the answer for myself when I ask myself this a lot, especially when working with emerging artists or people who are having their first show or people who are perhaps having their first show in another place other than their own. I wrestle with this question a lot, that is there an intervention that is too much as a curator? Like, is there a line for you? Because in your case, you're also an artist, you're thinking artistically. Is there a line that you draw of how much intervention into a work might be too much?
Especially Alina work, Alina known everybody, she works in coach as a administrator like level, but silently she's a photographer. He invited me for a lunch her place 3 years before. I went her place. I discovered she's a photographer. Since then I was pushing. Alina, you have good work, Alina. She said, no, Jai. But then, like, I asked her, send me all the footage what I have. So we sat with her. Like, she lives in Delhi, and every day after she works in, now she shifted to Delhi Art Fair. She was so busy. She's come from 10:30 to 1 o'clock. We looked at the large edit. So we have a lot of, then we like try to find a draw line between what are the works, and so many, she is all over the work. Then we try to place her mother work. Mother is Anglo Indian. Her grandmother is a French woman. His father is come from very political point of her, and she has her own identity as a queer person, and adopted so many. Then we tried to find out ideas. So the beginning 6-7 meetings, I was with her. We had editing and thing. Then we came. Then after final 6-7, I was with her. After that, I said, Alina, this is enough. Again, I'm sitting with you. Then it will become like it's not your work. So then from there, after that 7th, 2 session, she came completely reworked again. Whatever we worked on, he removed everything. Like, then she started from zero. Then she came out, this is my work, Jai. After 1 month of talking, then so like that. So then I was surprised. Wow, nice. Finally, she come with her own work, and like even Sadish in the way said, he said, when I said to invite him, I never touch video. I'm not a video person. I said no. Then he was really also open. I know his art practice, but CBB told me that very clearly. We are not commissioned for anybody, Jai. But I took it a challenge. I know the Sadish work and how he do it. And when he really worked hard and came to give a nice work. And then I looking at art photograph, when I asked for Steve I seen somewhere, he said what is called the work called VR. So I asked him any new work, Steve. He said I have a couple of works. So he came for a meeting. I showed the work and he saw the VR work. It's very basic, and then we don't have a time to give money to make it great work. Sorry, big finishing the work. Then Steve, what you have any work? That's how he came from Delhi. The book he showed me. I just read the book. It was very emotional. I just 2-3 pages only I read, and I felt it very. I moved it. Then I said, Steve, can I show this book? And if you believe it, still I have not finished it. And if you believe in, you can keep it. I said, yes, it's really nice. And you can give the copy right away. Now I keep it. I said, no. If we have a time, then he said, he made a work. So sometimes I discovered. And the way I liked it, the way he interpreted with his father and the way his beautiful mind, because I know him, I've been working with him before Varnam Festival. He also one of the curators. So we worked with him. I know how he capable. He suddenly will come with our own book. He made it when we said. So I know how he artistic mind. So then that's how I discovered his work, the book work. So everything happened in a relationship between me and the artist for a longer time, and that's how. And also I trust some like a blind trust of they will finish it before the deadline or whatever. Yeah, and especially with Aishwarya. I think Aishwarya. I was so keen into Aishwarya because in the Goa festival, we were in the workshop with Dayanita. She was working very hard and see that's the very beginning when I reached out to Aishwarya, I want this work. Jai, no. She said no. And she said, why? Like, no, I'm not just made the work. I don't know. Like, then I said, no, we'll talk. Then then we had a discussion. Then I explained to her. We had a different time of conversation. Then I'll explain why the colonial point of view, I'm questioning that colonial point of how your work is very important to that. Then she also accepted. Then she took a time. It's new life for her. She took a time and she edited and she showed me some reference of her work, and that's how we started. So some of the work I really wanted, and I even Priyadarshini. When I reached Priyadarshini, I'm not sure. I don't want her that Angkor work or any other work. And then Priyadarshini, I'm working up some new work. It's like mixed media. So then we don't know that time what's the space. Then we discussed that one. What is your theme of the work? Make it very big, and with other work make it like a strip. So these are the idea I gave to the artists. They also understood and they also delivered. That's how each and every artist worked it. And for Kritika Sriram, I wanted to make sure that three of body of work have to come. How she inspired from that novel Bama, and how one artist work I want to see the artist practice, whole artist practice. So each and every one things I decided. I have some thought how to display, how to do it.
I mean, anybody in the audience have any questions? I can keep on asking him, but.
Actually, I wanted to ask you a question. I forgot the question. Then now become a curator. You've been going to places like take our works to takes to that Arl, and then outside Pelda, and then and you've been vitally main part of the Delhi Photo Festival. Then first I met you in Photo Kathmandu personally. I know you, but we met. So being the spaces from here, then you also become a full-time photographer and going to the international thing, and how the people still call you as an Indian curator. Yeah. And that's one question. Then second question is, before I forget, and you've been closely working in Southeast Asia and India. Recently you wrote a book about Southeast Asia, the practice. And then I always think as a Tamil Nadu photographer, Delhi and other part of, for example, Bangalore one part of time, they was very dominating for fashion and wildlife photography and salon photography, sometimes Kerala. And Delhi is like a gateway of we feel Delhi is the gateway of Indian photography. Then little bit Bengal, when I met Bengal photographers in Kolkata, whoever my friends, they always associate with full whole West Bengal also. So, but how now you see that you are aware of the South Indian photography, Indian photography. After seeing the show, what do you feel? And also you are very closely working with here Tamil Nadu photographers very individually. and what you feel?
Lots of questions. I'll go back to the first one where you, I think, from what I understand, but correct me if I'm wrong, that you were saying that basically taking work from here to Western institutions and also working in the region. Maybe what's the difference, and this idea of the Indian curator. I've been thinking about this a little bit. I didn't write a book. I wrote a paper in a book. I think I'm a way away from writing a book. Yeah, this notion of the nationalistic identity getting associated, getting kind of attached to us, right? Indian curator, Indian photographer, women curator, women photographer, whatever is that unidimensional identity. I find it quite uncomfortable because I think what you talked about, the multiplicity in your show, I think we are all made of multiplicities, right? And so which is the identity that we want to attach and which is the identity we want to reject, and can I contain myself within one identity? I just wanted to show a couple of things as well, that this is a page from our publication in Pics, and this line by Aga Shahid Ali, my memory is again in the way of your history. This is kind of like my I don't know, mission sounds like a very heavy word, but yeah, it's something that I return to quite a lot, and I think curatorial practice allows us to build worlds that go against kind of dominant histories. Now, what is dominant keeps getting shifted, right? It's not just the West and the East. I think that just associated with that, I always refer to this in my curatorial practice, where just this, where you said Indian curator, yeah, when we're in the West, we're sort of tagged with these national identities, or we're called Global South, or we're called South Asia, from these places, South Asian. I wonder which one applies when. And this was actually a proposition given by Kanak Mani Dikshit. He's the editor of Himal magazine. He gave it in 92, where he basically rejected the term South Asia, the two words South Asia, because he said that that is basically a geographical region that is bound by political borders. And he proposed the term South Asia, the single word, which he said is a vast penumbra of intermingling cultures and identities, rejecting our certitude as citizens of modern day nation states. So that we are not just bound by these nationalistic identities, but can there be something in the region that identifies us with each other? But he also proposed this kind of upturned map of South Asia and kind of reversing this dominant history. So whereas in the West they may look at sort of, different places, different trends, sometimes it's African photography, sometimes it's Indian, sometimes South Asian, sometimes Japanese. I think over periods of time different places get pushed up for various reasons, but even in the region there is dominance, right? India imposes dominance upon its neighbors. So Kanak, being from Nepal, sort of proposed this map of sort of he said the right way up map of looking at the region, and then how do we kind of look at the region and its hierarchies like this. So I think in the same way, where you say, you think that Delhi is the gateway of Indian photography, or it seems like that. But
No, even though assignment, I mean, I didn't mean that way. One point of time when I was seriously taking photography,
Yeah.
people told me you have to live in Delhi, then only
Yeah.
you get assignment.
Yeah.
So that way I said, I didn't
I
say
agree.
that, yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree.
If you want to be a successful, even my best friend is a fashion photographer. He shifted to Delhi. He's really doing good. So that way, even documentary filmmakers, they all live in Delhi. I mean that way, yeah.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. This like rural-urban divide, how much power the capital holds, the sort of imposition of Hindi as like this, unidimensional language binding identity, whatever that is, and people who know English, can move in certain spheres. So I'm quite interested in always looking at that notion of dominance and marginality and who may be. So I think it's quite interesting to look at many of these photographers in the context, and curatorial work is contextual work, of looking at them in this context of the Tamil New Wave. Because I, of course, know many of these practices, but I've seen them in different, maybe I've looked at Aishwarya's practice in terms of medium in a certain way, or someone else's, Pradarshini's practice in terms of I can look at it also in terms of a feminist lens, and what are the different lenses within which that we can construct. So I find it quite interesting that this is what you propose as the Tamil New Wave, and I think the generative way to move forward is that someone comes, maybe not tomorrow, maybe 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, and they're going to be like, subverting the Tamil New Wave, and that will be, so the dominance and marginality always keeps shifting. But someone once said to me that the most exciting ideas emerge from the margins. They don't emerge from the center. And what is the center and what is the margin? So I always also go to that of what is in this context, what is the margin? How do we look towards that? And I think it's not a fixed point. And it maybe just one last thing that I always, it's something that I think through while working in the West is, I don't know if I have it. Yeah. This was a work by Vishal Kumaraswamy. He's from Bangalore, and he was in the show that I had done in Aal. And he does this work, again, sort of self-identified, looking at the Dalit community, and he looks at how grief moves through the body as body moves through public space. And he's looking at sort of the funeral procession of Dalit people on the streets. And the streets which are governed by this Brahminical order, it's only at the time of this procession that this large gathering can happen. But he rejects the relationship between photography and representation. He's not interested in photographing the Dalit body, but he collaborates with contemporary dancers, and they animate the movements of the funeral procession, and then he records it with 3D scanning and photogrammetry. So he makes these kind of images that are stills, and there's also video around. And while we were, kind of trying to make this work, there are so many distances between me and Vishal if we want to build or define distance. I come from an upper caste community. That he comes from a Dalit community. Should we be, when we work together, is there friction? He comes from, he's Kannada speaking. I am not. The work is called Marana. The name of the work is also not in a language that I'm familiar with. So when we actually have this conversation, he actually terms his work as a kind of resistant space, where he says that these movements are heirlooms of the community, and there may be symbols in the work that people from the community may be able to recognize and may pose conditions of access on the Savarna, which means it's okay if you don't understand. And that was a real, you may understand parts of it, you may connect with parts of it, you may try to make sense, but it is not his job to go beyond the point to explain it. And I found that to be quite powerful. I take it also as a guiding force when I'm in the West, where how much of the work do you explain? And I think the audience also needs to do some labor to meet us when we present, the work. So, yeah, I guess a little bit.
Can you talk a bit about your journeys going forward?
In the beginning, we spoke about little. You came little late, right? Yeah.
Going forward, I think, are you going to go to making images or making shows? Yeah, sorry.
Especially with the AI monster lurking around, does that in any way change your approach to what you're doing? Thank you.
Yeah, I can. We are free to. I'm very open to that. Do some experiment with AI. That's the one women show with Suchi and it's there in the Lalit Kala. It's completely made by AI technology. So after that, seeing that, maybe why I can't try. Maybe, yeah. But always new things will come. Being artist, whatever comes, we have to experiment. But sometimes works, sometimes doesn't works. But I'm open to that. Next, after A, something will be B1 or C1.
Me? Will I work with AI? Is that the question? I don't know. I'm not that. I'm kind of medium agnostic. So whichever. I mean, these are not images made with a camera. They're made with 3D scanning and photogrammetry. I think for me, it's quite interesting to look at. Photography is the fastest kind of change. There's so much insecurity around the medium. When digital came, then everybody was like, photography is dead. Somebody said photography is dead in like the late 1800s. So we keep pronouncing it dead, and it keeps kind of coming back. So I'm not that attached to medium specificity, but I'm quite interested in how artists are really probing at what is given within the medium, like what it's supposed to be doing, and can it kind of go beyond that. And I'm interested in, say, Vishal's practice, because I always imagine photography as representation. I don't work that much with fine art, and he breaks that link for me. So yeah, I'm excited by that challenge where I don't understand, and so yeah, I hope I keep learning.
Yeah, I feel end of the day is a tool to tell your own story. When the digital also came, everyone talk about digital after film too. So end of the day it becomes a tool.
Yeah.
More like a comment slash reaction to the initial comparison you drew with the role of the translator. Like drawing this parallel between the curator and the translator, and I'm not entirely convinced by this analogy. Except, like, for instance, if you take your role as, for instance, like making a book into an exhibition. So how do you translate the language of bookmaking into the language of exhibition making? On the other end, like a collaboration between artist and a curator, I feel has also a creative dimension, you know, that comes up at the moment of the curation. That it's not like really taking an object and giving it a new form, you know, or a new language. It's more like figuring out that form together, you know, because especially with photography, which is kind of by definition formless, let's put it this way, like it's especially digitally where there are no prints, you don't know how big it's going to be, like you don't know what paper you're going to choose. All these decisions are being made, like, you know, in conversation, you know, and so I would see it more as like, you know, the action of yeast. I was trying to find like an analogy that felt more, but there are all kinds, of course, of curatorial interventions, you know, and there are also like cases where, like as an artist, you just fit to a curator's like grand message or grand point, you know, where like actually your work is just a piece of the puzzle, and there's no translation involved. So I think I see the curator's, you know, role as a kind of a, or like definition is more like a spectrum of different possible like you know, forms of interventions, and even though I mean translation is a very valid point as well, but I see it especially when you're translating from one form to the other, like which is
Yeah.
to edition.
Do you want to say?
First you go, I try to understand the questions very.
No, but I
It's a
feel like
comment. I think.
Comment, yeah.
Yeah, we
Like-
should have called it starter pack, if you get my pun. But I completely agree. I think that I've pulled up this image because this is actually Philippe's work, and we had worked together on a curatorial exercise, and actually just that whole thing, the idea of it being formless and really conceiving what can be the form in that particular space. I think that act of translation is also, for me, yeah, it's not a direct analogy, but I think it's more to do with the relationship shared between a translator and an author, because many times translators are translating works of people who are dead, so the author's not there, and that is many times the role of curators as well. They're working with archives that, like, you know, authors are not alive or we don't know. At other points, there are authors that are alive, some that want to have a part in the curatorial process, and others that just say, you know, here's the hard drive, do what you want with it. And actually I've had the experience of people giving me their hard drives, and then when they're like, I don't want to have anything to do with this, and then when you kind of propose something, they get very invested because they can kind of see that form. So for me, it's really that relationship, and there are translators that have had years of continuing relationships with authors, understanding authors over time and understanding their work, and the translation reflecting that. And I feel that a lot in my work. I think I work with the same artists across different media. If I can just very quickly kind of maybe show how we all influence each other. I mean, for me, this was an early curatorial project of mine, which was in Photo Kathmandu. This is the work of Tasneem Al Sultan, and this was done in Photo Kathmandu, which is a festival that is conceived. I was given the directive: your primary audience is the people of Kathmandu. It is not the photo audience. It is not the intellectual sort of sort of people who come and listen to talks as such. It's really the people crossing on the streets, and can curate it for them. And really kind of the imagining also works in public spaces. This was a work that was on the dam built on the Yangtze River, and we had installed it. This is a working, it's an area where people come to collect water in Kathmandu. So what is that relationship around water, and this exhibition that was conceived there. And so much of that dialogue, so much of my own learning happened from my peers. It's peers who run Photo Kathmandu, to when I was in the caravan. It's this continuing relationship of bringing their work that they did with the Feminist Memory Project into the caravan, and contextualizing it for an audience that's reading a journalistic paper. They're not there, it's not an art audience, it's not, viewing an exhibition. It's a very different experience to taking it to, Breda Photo Festival, which is like a totally different audience altogether, and then contextualizing what is feminism in Nepal and how are they actually seeing the feminist praxis for an audience that perhaps has they do have a very limited view of what Nepal is. So those long-standing relationships, I think, not only enrich the work, enrich both of us, as I am enriched so much by the conversations I have with artists, which then maybe comes into one piece I write or something, and I hope that, our dialogue also impacts the artists that I work with. So I think that it's maybe the translation relationship. Friendship, yes, very much, very true.
I don't think I have an answer for that. Maybe we will continue when we meet.
I have a question for both of you. So when you start a curation, like one in the one you're displaying in Kathmandu, is it the intent of the curation you have in mind, and then you look for the artist? Or you come across some artist, you find the work interesting, and then create the curation? And also, like, I see that you explore different artists, new people, and you want to work with them. So how do you explore them? You go with the intent of how the work should be, or it's the work comes your way and you pick it?
Yes, you go.
No, go ahead, I'll ask that.
See, here is always I did only, this is my first curation. Technically, I mean, this is the one like very. Here I looked at the first curatorial framework. What I'm going to say as being a curator. Then I took that what is a multiple, and what Tamil Nadu, what's the political space here? We are multiple. So then I took it a multiple. Then I look at it multiple art practice within the lens-based art in Tamil Nadu. That's the one. And then how, that's the one keyword I took it. From the keyword, whatever the work fit to me, I started with 80 work, then 82 I made it 50, 52 I made it so much talent here. Then I looking for aesthetics wise, and that what is, then I looked at Sridhar work, that big picture we made, no? So that is the thing I thought about, where is that we can take that photography before Tamil Nadu, after that, the way he made it with the rock under the way he dressed and so many things. That's the question of what photography happened emerging here, So that, and then way of looking at Aishwarya, political point of, so how the gaze of colonial gaze of portrait happening all this year. Portrait means you have to take camera front. That's a certain class of portrait. You have also did lot of, what do you mean, portrait classes. So, but for me being so these are the themes, and how Kritika Sriram read a novel, Bahama novel, coming from Ambedkarite community. What brings to the novel when she's like 20 years before, she's never born that, maybe she never born that time the novel written. So when that 2-3 generation later she read the novel, what to happen to her, the first generation of photographer. So these are the things, like a literature connection, So these are the finding dots and put it in. It's really fitted in the curator note. So many photographers not really there. I were like, some people are like going out, in coming in. Then finally, so then I believe that when you believe some idea, the idea will bring to that fall in places, something like that. When you believe, for example, for editing the book, finally the book make own itself. I don't know how to say in English. ஒரு புக் இருந்தால் அந்த அதே தன்னோட பாதையை நீர் போகிறப்ப நீர் வந்து தண்ணியை தேடிக்குன்னு சொல்கிறாங்களே, அதே மாதிரி ஒரு இந்த மியூசிக் இந்த க்யூரியேஷன் வந்து அதே அதை எடுத்துக்கிச்சு. நான் ஒன்றும் பண்ணல, ஏற்கனவே இருந்ததை நம்ம அதே கண்டுபிடிச்சிக்கிச்சுன்ற மாதிரி தான். ஸோ பட் ஆனால் வந்து மல்டிபிள் அந்த இதுதான், அந்த மல்டிபிள்னஸ் அண்ட் இந்த பொலிட்டிக்கல் அண்டு நான் எங்கேருந்து வர்றேன், நான் எப்படி ஆர்ட்டை பார்க்குறேன், நான் அப்புறம் ஒரு ஜேர்னி பண்ணுறேன்ல, நான் போகிற ஜேர்னி பண்ணுறப்போ எங்கெங்கே என்ன நடந்திருக்குன்னு ஒரு நமக்குள்ளே ஒரு கலெக்டிவ் நாலேஜ் இருக்குது. ஸோ அந்த நாலேஜ் வந்து ரிஃப்ளெக்ட் ஆகுது, அவ்வளோதான்.
I wish I knew what you said right now, but I think it's both ways. Sometimes you're given a prompt and you find artists. I feel a lot of, and actually things like Instagram has made it. Earlier it used to be, I think, Tumblr, and then it was also in-person portfolio reviews. You also make an effort to try and reach out to people when you're in their city, try and see the work in person, but also really to establish a relationship and just be like, are you working on something new? They have to trust you, and you build that trust like you build friendship, I think, over a period of time. And if they do trust you sometimes, and they're even shaky about the work, some people are open to showing and some people are not, and that's both fine. But I think it's a constant curiosity, right? Like, who's doing what work, what are they doing next? Sometimes I compare it to like when you see a film. I'm quite obsessed with, either when I see a film or I discover a new song. You go to the discography, right, and you try and like go through everything that like, that artist has produced, and then who came after, and then who dated who, and like what, well, all that is available on Wikipedia. I guess it's not that much for photographers, but in that realm, like however you listen to all their interviews and you get obsessed with certain practices also. And then the idea is sometimes maybe to try and work with them and slot them in a show. And other times it happens when you're given, sometimes you have to curate out of submissions that come. So the show in R was actually a very difficult premise because it had 420 applications from across the world, and we had to make a show of 10 people. And it was really, it's so subjective. What is good? And so when we pulled it down to about 50 or 45, we were in discussion. Any combination of that would have made an interesting show. And I was quite keen to have a representational focus, to shift representation, because I felt that it was a show that was being done in Europe. Often shows have like, 20%, 10%. There's one artist from Asia, or one from Latin America, one from Africa, there's 10%, 20%. I was like, what happens if you swing the needle all the way to the right and do 90% Global South? But at the same time, there was this show, this is the work of Hien Hoang, the Vietnamese artist living in Germany. I was quite interested in having a representational focus, but the show to not be limited to this. The show cannot be about the fact that, can't end at the fact that it's from Global South artists. That's the starting point. And then what do they propose? So then I had to find something. It wasn't as if any 10 Global South artists, it was that these 10 Global South artists, what were they doing? And I titled it as Moving Definitions, which is in a sense, definitions are supposed to be fixed, and these are artists that were shifting the position of ideas that are termed as fixed, and how do they sort of stray from the generalized notion of certain ideas which are maybe patriarchy, maybe domestic violence. How do they interpret that in the image? So it was a challenging exercise because they didn't submit the work under that theme. So they submitted a common application. I proposed a sort of a net to put them under, and I was also quite interested in who qualifies as Global South in terms of, this is the work of Samantha Box. She was born in Jamaica. She has Trinidadian, Indian, and I think, Caribbean heritage, Jamaican, Trinidadian, and African and Indian heritage, but she lives in the Bronx. She was born in New York, and she has a US citizenship. So does she qualify as Global South? Does she not? You know, these ideas of identities. I was also, you know, we had artists from India, artists working in India, but artists who are not Indian. Some were Indian. And what is that notion of sort of, is citizenship going to define our parameters? So, yeah, I was quite interested in probing that idea.
Is representational focus a pressure on the curator? In general, I'm asking, not here or globally.
புரியல.
ரெப்ரசன்டேஷனல் ஃபோக்கஸ், அதாவது இப்போ இங்கே ஒரு ஷோ நடத்துகிறோன்னா தமிழ் இத்தனை பேர் இருக்கணும், நார்த்தில் இந்த பேர் இருக்கணும், அவுட் சைட் இந்தியாவில் இவ்வளோ பேர் இருக்கணும், அந்த மாதிரி அந்த டிஸ்ட்ரிபியூஷன் ஃபோக்கஸ் பண்ணுறது வந்து ஒரு க்யூரேட்டருக்கு ப்ரெஷராக இருக்கா?
இல்லை அதான் நான் இவங்க சொன்ன மாதிரி என்ன ஐடென்டிட்டி இதில் பேச வென் சி செட் for me I don't have any I was very clear, that's why I said my art practices come from my family history, where I'm coming from, that is very separate. When I come to do a curation where I belongs to Tamil landscape, so I'm very clear about Tamil land. So but for me I never looked at a pressure. I don't know for others, but for me I'm very clear because I don't know yeah. So maybe suddenly someone, if I don't know anything about biology, I'm not sure about biology, if anybody asked me to curate biology, I said no, because I didn't know about, even at school I studied, but some subject if I don't know, I don't want to do that. This is, I'm very comfortable from all these years, so I'm very comfortable and I'm really happy, and it's very it's kind of my question, what is for longer time. So other identity nala enakku romba pressure illa, maybe other people have some, depends on their subject and the purpose of sometimes they ask you some purpose to solve the thing, then that may be pressure. But whatever see also, like see come from that the art photography is her community, I mean the larger community, like so when
I think maybe it's a good thing to end on. I would term it now as more of an interest, but I do sometimes feel a pressure, because I think that we are all, as much as we try to break it, we are all seen through our identities many times. I think it's like if you're a curator from India, you're expected to bring work from here, or the work of other women, or that I do. Nobody says it outright, but at the same time, I also feel it's such an interesting point in history to be alive, where a lot is shifting, and I think that institutions are feeling pressured, that if they don't do this, they won't be seen as progressive. And often the work that artists do, cultural workers do, it's in service, we hope, for a longer change in institutional framework. But artists are making work. Institutions are now kind of forced to look in that direction. And maybe the insecurity can be seen, like in the US, we can see that they are dismantling all DEI initiatives in institutions. Why? This is a pushback towards, there was something that was shifting. So, I don't know, I see cultural work as a kind of reparative work for me, that it's a form of repair. Over the course of our lives, maybe we try to repair small little things. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.